You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Right before we started recording, Stephanie said, "You've been kind of an asshole to me all day." It's very true, babe. I have been an asshole. Not just to you either.
I didn't say you've been an asshole. I said you've been an asshole to me.
Yes, but I've been an asshole equally to everybody. It just so happens that you're the only person that I've seen today or spent time with.
All my personalities are offended.
All your personalities.
Took you a minute.
It did take me a minute. And I am moving past that topic. Yeah, it's been a really shitty day.
I noticed.
I talked to you all about it, too.
Yes.
And I usually don't do that.
I'm very proud of you.
I usually just ignore it and not discuss it.
And think I don't notice.
Well,
I do.
I hope you don't notice.
I do, though.
But no, it's been a shitty day. Been very stressed, full of anxiety and frustration. And you know why. Not you, but you.
I do.
You know why.
I do.
Should we tell them why?
No. We're going to do.
Happy fun?
I thought this was our karaoke episode.
What is the karaoke episode?
The one where we karaoke.
Oh.
Did you not bring it out?
Are we karaoke eating?
I was looking for the disco ball. I can only do it with a disco ball. Did you set up the disco ball?
I just had a fucking swarm of something attack me.
Yeah?
Those are ants.
Those are ants?
There's ants in my pants.
Don't blow it at me.
Sorry.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Ah, don't, seriously.
They're just ants.
I don't like
dear.
that. Where did the swarm
They're
come
not
from?
biting ants.
Did they fall from the trees? Because shit's about to
You know
go
what?
down. Table's going to flip.
Everybody,
I don't like surprise on me.
it's not murder hornets we have to be aware of. It's swarms
I don't
of
like
ants falling from the sky.
No, that's not gonna go well.
It's like the
It's not
Watchmen,
gonna go well. It's not like the watch.
where they had
the squid.
the squid that came.
Jesus.
And the squids. What fell from the sky though? Was it squids?
I thought it was, but I don't know.
You don't remember?
Well, I think I'm okay now.
You gonna be all right?
I don't know.
Go watch The Watchmen. It's very apropos
Maybe
in
I'll.
some way, shape, or form to the
It
current
kind
state
of
of
is.
the world. Yeah,
Like it would make sense if shit started falling from the sky. Honestly.
it would.
Yeah. I'll be composed by then.
Here we are in the backyard once again.
Yes.
We had to prolong recording this evening because our neighbor was mowing the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds terrible when he mows the lawn. So here we are. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, well, I felt like I was on a good flow until the ant thing.
And the ant thing, and then
Messed
also
me
your
up.
husband pissing you off.
Well, no, I've been okay with that. I just like, I don't know. Today I shaved my legs and I did my makeup and I just kind of did that while you were
Upset all day?
Yeah.
I've been upset.
I know you've been very snappy at me.
Well, you know what? I have been holding in a bunch of stuff and not expressing it and not allowing it to flow through my body.
Yeah.
And so today was just too much.
You've been holding an aggression against me? Are you pissed off at me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dumbass, no. Not holding in aggression against you. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't. You've been taking it out on me, and you're like, yeah. Well, it's because I've been holding it in. So I was just clarifying.
I told you this morning when I talked about it that it had nothing to do with you. That I wasn't upset with you, and I apologized for being snappy with you.
You're right. I clearly have no reason to draw conclusions.
We're not fighting on this episode.
I'm not. I'm having fun. I'm sending like eye signals.
To people?
Like, yeah, what is that? If you blink 3 times if you need help.
That's terrible.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Blink 4 times if you don't need help. You're fine. She doesn't need help. We got some really great feedback recently.
We did. I think
what the fuck
it was the
that?
chair. I might go down this episode.
You'll be all right.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was actually thinking when I was setting everything up.
It could happen. I might fall. You're going to have to leave it in.
That would be so good.
You got to leave it.
I think we need... Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm in way too good of a mood.
I'm so glad you're in a good mood.
I feel like I'm all by myself over here. Like,
I'll get in a good mood.
you will.
I will.
Especially if the chair breaks.
Yes, that will be funny. somebody recently gave us some good advice in regards to the podcast.
Yes.
They said that we're a little too serious all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't need to be, which I agree.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be, right?
I agree.
We fucking relax a little bit and not be so serious. And then also some episodes of the podcast, we take a while to get to it. That we take a while to get into.
I forgot about that tidbit of advice.
Yeah, that we take just a little smidget of time, sometimes 45 minutes, to actually get into what the hell we're going to be talking about.
Because it's really hard for me to get to the point.
Yes.
It's not because of anything other than nerves. It's hard. I have to make sure.
So I'm going to get right to the point.
Okay, do it.
Last week's episode, we talked about the protests. We talked about the murder of George Floyd. We talked about all of those different things. And we do have some actual interviews scheduled next week with some guests that are going to come on. And they're people of color. We want to hear from them. We want to talk to them, all that kind of different stuff. And that's not changing. We're going to be doing that moving forward with the podcast in some way, shape, or form. And I'm excited for that. In the meantime, I have been struggling over the last few days with this internal turmoil. I guess internal turmoil isn't. Inner turmoil is more accurate, right? This inner turmoil with what I can do, right? And what I should do and what I can help with and all the things that people recommend as far as voting and I know there's more. I sound like a fool. But all that kind of stuff that is being shared around social media in regards to how you can become active and how you can help and all these kind of different things. Yes, we can do that. But I sit, and part of the big problem for me personally, Steph, and you know this because we talk about it, and you, I'm sure, have some similar experience, but it's the realization of the fact that I haven't been doing anything other than avoiding conflict in regards to certain things. And it's starting to dawn on me that this is, in similar ways, it's the same dynamic that I've struggled with in regards to predatory male behavior and or masculine comments made by men that are derogatory towards women and quote unquote locker room talk, all those kind of different things. Even though this is vastly different in scope, it's similar in some way, shape, or form that, up until recently, I have sat back and did nothing about that problem, meaning toxic masculinity and all the different issues that women face and how men perpetuate it and all those kind of different things. I wasn't really doing anything about that. So I've shifted that and I've been trying to do more there. And this is the same thing where I'm not really doing anything in regards to racism or trying to change the world and the view of this country in regards to race. I'm not doing anything other than sitting back and letting things slide. And so this week, I've been sitting back and watching all the things that come up on social media. And it has been very frustrating and hard and difficult. And at the same time, I feel silly to say that this is hard for me to sit in my fucking house and look at fucking Facebook, right? So that beside the point, right? It's not hard. It's a luxury. It's nice. It's easy, whatever. I get it. But I think about what I can do. So, see, I'm just getting right to it because I'm already on my tangent.
Yeah, do
I'm
it.
up on my
I'm
soapbox.
here.
You gonna take a nap?
No.
I'm just going to talk straight to the people.
That works.
It's stuff that you and I've talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that are brand new to the podcast, even though I don't know if there is anybody still brand new because we have a lot of amazing listeners. Shout out to, oh shit. It's in the south part of Africa. Let's just say South Africa. Shout out to South Africa and the people listening down there. There's somebody in Jordan listening too. Or the United Arab Emirates. Anyways.
Maybe that's my friend.
Could be.
If it is. Hi, Emma. I miss you.
Okay. Where was I? Oh, I used to be a police officer. And so I had an 8-year career in law enforcement. And so that kind of gives me an insight into what it's like for police officers.
Yes.
And by that, I mean, I know exactly what it's like for police officers because I was one.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with a lot of police officers, and I'm still friends with a lot of people in the law enforcement community. And I've been watching all week as they have started to ramp up their support for police officers in the current state of the country, and what police officers are experiencing and how they are being treated right now. And I'm going to bump the mic stand a couple of times. So it's been very interesting because I think last week we talked about how things were changing inside of us, like inside of our heads and inside of our thought process, right? And I remember the mentality and the thought process that I had as a police officer. And I would have been thinking and saying some of the same things that I hear people say about police officers today.
Yeah.
And I would be talking about how important they are and how good police officers are because the vast majority of them are good people. I would be talking about how hard it is and how right now they're being, attacked and persecuted and, people hate them and they're being seeked out and killed. There's been a handful of police officers that have been murdered over the last few weeks. And I would be saying all of these same things from the perspective of police officers matter and their lives matter. And as I was watching and seeing everybody's shit come flowing through Facebook, I realized suddenly, and it's not some fucking amazing epiphany, I'm sure, right? But their arguments are literally the same arguments that Black people are having and trying to simply express to the rest of the world. They're trying to say, hey, we matter. We're being singled out. We're being attacked. We're being murdered. We're being persecuted. People are specifically like hunting us down and killing us strictly because we are Black people, right? And they're not just saying that because of the last week or two or the last month or the last year. It's because of like the last 400 years. And so I'm really struggling, Steph, with what the fuck I'm supposed to do, because now I feel like if I sit back and do nothing in regards to social media, it'll just be like the simplest thing to describe it this way, even though I know that that's not the fix-all. I can't just sit and assume that what I do on social media is going to solve this problem. That's not the case. There are those other things that need to be done, as well as a lot of other stuff that needs to happen as well. But the inner turmoil I'm having, babe, is how can I sit back quietly and not say anything now at these things that are being shared and expressed and believed and touted and kind of, do you know what I mean? How can I now sit back and not say anything about those things? Because I feel like that's what I was doing before, and it wasn't benefiting this current situation in regards to race in this country at all. It was hurting that because I wasn't saying anything against it, right? It's like if I see shitty, douchey guys that are treating other people or women or whatever in a terrible way, I mean, what it feels like is if I sit back and I have to stop rambling, I'm getting very scared and nervous. So that's the thing that I'm struggling with, is how do I speak out against that stuff without just dissolving into an argument on Facebook, which I feel like solves nothing, right? How do I do that, Miss Stephanie?
Oh,
my friend, lover, best friend, girl, sweetheart, talk now. We got straight to the fucking point. Makes me super happy.
I guess don't go into, like, my only advice, just what I have at this moment, is don't go into it with a fight mentality. Go into it with an expressive, willing to educate, and also being willing to learn, to be educated mindset. Like, say something, know better, do better, say something, and be okay with different opinions that come in without it having to turn into a brawl. And to anybody who disagrees with this, just unfriend me. Why? When that's an opportunity to come together. So just don't be ready to brawl. Say your piece and just lead with love.
Lead with love. Yeah. Right now I'm not doing much of anything other than having inner turmoil and struggle with what the fuck I'm supposed to do, right? Or how to do it. And when I think about that, like, yeah, I'm not going to lead with some sort of like argumentative fight or trying to battle somebody who's got another viewpoint. But I also feel like I'm not going to change their viewpoint.
Maybe.
Right? That's the thing, that it feels like...
You're not trying to change it. You're just trying to give them another viewpoint, right?
Yeah, but I think about the viewpoint that I had when I was a police officer.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine somebody changing my mind during that time period, because you see things so clearly as a police officer.
Okay.
So it's like you see things... This sounds terrible.
Well,
I was going to say you see things as black and white, and that sounds terrible.
A little bit.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are some officers, but you see things as, you just see things so clearly in your mind, even though you're not seeing things clearly, right? You're very narrow-minded in the scope of what you can see and what you can accept and what you're willing to see as a police officer. And like, if there's, I'm sure, well, not only if, because I know that we have some cop friends that listen to this podcast. I'm not saying we're narrow-minded. I'm not saying police officers are narrow-minded, because they're not. But they tend to have a very skewed perspective on the world around them. What are you looking? What's going on? What are you saying to me with your eyes, beautiful woman?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you think that you were any less stubborn or set in your mind, whatever and how much it changes now than you were when you were a police officer? I'm just curious. I mean, like, you're constantly evolving and growing, and new mindsets are coming in, but you suddenly think that you're less stubborn now?
Yeah, I do.
You're not. You're super stubborn. You're still very stubborn. Look at you right now. I'm like, what? What are you seeing with your eyes?
Stubborn, but yet
you're very convicted in your thoughts, and you are still, as you were then and as you are now, willing to take in more information and let your mind grow, let your heart grow. That hasn't changed. That's the same thing. So to say they're in their mindset, you can't get through to them, I think that's bullshit, because that's always changing. People are always changing.
So you think I just need to keep trying or putting forth my little effort?
I think.
What do you think?
I think.
Do you think it's beneficial?
I do. I think the mindset, well, nobody's going to change their mind, so I'm not going to do anything, is
part of the problem.
That's not the verbiage I was going to use, but yes.
It sounds like it, as you say it like that.
Oh, I was going to use verbiage. I was just maybe not going to use as nice verbiage as that.
Oh, okay. I thought that was actually kind of harsh.
Oh, no. Yes. No. I think there's a difference.
You know who's stubborn?
I think there's a difference between being like, I don't know what I can do. Help me understand what I can do. I'm ready to learn more, and I'm ready to do more. What can I do? As opposed to, well, I know what I can do, but nobody's going to listen, so I'm just not going to do it.
Okay. I see that point of view.
That?
Yeah. And I feel like that's the frame of mind that I'm in, where, okay, I'm ready to do more. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to look at things differently, completely differently, right?
Yeah.
Totally different than I ever have before. And that's kind of frustrating on one hand. I feel really guilty and shitty that something like this had to take place and reach to the level that it was or has or is, for me to suddenly be like, okay, I guess enough shit's happened now. I will fucking listen to you.
Right.
That's not the way I think of it and the way that I feel, but that's kind of like the way that it is, right?
It took a tragedy after tragedy. This just happens to be the tragedy that expanded your mind to where
Yeah.
you learn more and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
How did I not see that?
Yeah. How did I not see these things? And I think it's because I was choosing to not look,
I hate that.
I was choosing
I
to
feel
not see it because it wasn't in front of me. It wasn't in my view. We don't live in a community, and we don't live in a state. We don't live in a place where it's on every street corner and in every, interaction. It's just not there.
I think it's more than that too.
What is it?
I think, well, not just that. I think it's that, speaking, because I relate with that. Like, I'm ashamed that it's taken, why am I now learning this information? There's part of me that starts getting angry and judgmental of like, why was this not taught better? How is this,
Yeah.
how is this something that I have to search out information for? And like, maybe it wasn't right. So I understand it. So I feel that like, I'm ashamed that this is now where we're at and that it wasn't there before. And yeah, it's not thrown in our faces where we are. But I think another aspect of it is when you hear these horrific things, you do not want to believe they're true. So you don't want to go, you don't want to go searching for evil. You just hope it's not there. So I think you don't see it and you really, really, really don't want it to be true.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah, it's much easier of course it's easier, right? Of course it's easier to look at it and think that it's not real or that it's not true or that it's just in a small portion of the country or it's in the South or it's in Alabama.
Because of our lives, or South Africa, as you mentioned earlier. That's a very difficult place. So it's just all over.
Come here, you've got
Oh, God,
it's not an
come on.
ant.
What is
Relax.
it? Is it a spider?
It's just a little thingy. Sorry, I totally
It's okay.
pinched your
You
eye.
can pull my face off.
You're
It's
good,
the
you're good.
bug. Is it gone?
It's
Was it a
quick.
spider?
Yeah, no.
Yeah?
No, it wasn't a spider.
Okay, I like sitting under the tree, but you know what? I'm just not sure if I can handle it today.
Well,
If it's going to be like every time I felt the branch on me, I'm like, oh, the tree's loving me now. I'm going to be like,
I told you I'd cut the branch off.
well, I didn't want to, but now I'm like,
So I ran into an officer that works here in our town.
in our town.
Yeah, our small little town here in
Yeah?
Utah.
I don't know
I
that.
ran into an officer at the grocery store
Yeah?
who I know and I knew and I continue to
Mhm.
know, right, from
Mhm.
back when I was a police officer. And we were talking about it. And this officer happens to be Hispanic. He grew up in LA. And so he has that background, right,
Mhm.
of growing up in California as a Mexican. And he was having a hard time seeing, like, when he started talking to me, because basically I started talking to him just like, it's crazy. I can't imagine what it's like now. I hope you're being safe. All the generic stuff that I say, but not from this place of like not caring. Obviously I care, right? He's a good guy. But that was kind of the initial conversation. And then he talked about how the same rhetoric almost of like, that's not the way things really are, especially out here. Meaning he talked about like the west side of the country, the West Coast, the western part of the United States, where it's, granted it might be a little crazy back east right now and things might be, but that stuff doesn't really take place here in the western part of the country. He just had all these different things of like, and he was saying, and I was having these same thoughts run through my mind of like, is this my opportunity to try to plant some information or some seed or some knowledge in his head of like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Maybe that's what I need to do, is I need to come up with like counter arguments. And arguments are a bad way to put it because I don't want to argue with anybody, but maybe like counterpoints, right, to some of these stereotypical arguments. So like the meme that went around, and I've seen it again since then, but it was like, did anybody bother to explain that if you don't break the law, then, you don't have to deal with police? Basically was the meme. And that's not word for word, but essentially it was, if you just don't break the law, then you don't have to deal with the police.
Yeah.
Then it's not an issue. If you're not a criminal, then it's not an issue, which is a mindset that I had.
That's the mindset that I had.
As a police officer, right?
Very much. Oh, I thought, you hate the cops. Well,
Yeah.
quit breaking the law.
Quit being a criminal.
I did not.
Then you don't have to deal with police officers.
That was
And
very much a mindset.
there was a part of me that knew, but didn't really know, right? And so then this week, you and I watched Just Mercy, which is a
Oh.
film that's out right now.
Yeah.
It was released on video back in December, but they've gone and made it free on a bunch of different streaming platforms. You can actually stream it on YouTube.
Can you?
Yeah, right now. So go watch it. It's Just Mercy. It's got Jamie Foxx and
Michael B. Michael
Jordan.
B.
Michael B.
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah. Michael Jordan. That was a hard name for me to come up. I was thinking Smith. I'm like, that's not
Michael
it.
J. something.
Fox.
Michael
Jackson.
Jackson. Michael Jackson's in it. No, it's Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx, and it's a great film. It's a really, really good movie, and it's about the story of a black man, and it's in Alabama, right?
I believe so.
In Alabama, back in the late 80s, who was literally arrested and put on death row for a crime that he did not commit. And that's not, like, that in and of itself isn't, I don't want to say that's not unusual, even though unfortunately that's probably not unusual, but that's not unheard of people being charged and arrested and committed of crimes that they did not commit, right? But this story specifically, you watch it and you realize he had absolutely nothing to do with the case or with the crime. A white girl was murdered. He had nothing to do with it. He wasn't anywhere close to it. He literally was minding his own business and doing nothing. And the police arrested him and put him in jail, right?
Mhm.
On death row. He
On
was
death
sentenced to death. So that argument's no longer holds water, that you can just mind your own business and not have to deal with police.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I think if I came up with some good counterpoints for when they start referencing some of these things, right? I just watched another video that another officer friend of mine posted that was some bigwig cop back east standing there at some press conference surrounded by police officers behind him, basically just going off on how police officers are good people. We have, not we, because I'm no longer a police officer, but police officers have, millions of interactions every year with people. And the vast majority of those interactions are always peaceful and there's no issues and nothing happens and all these kind of different things. And same thing, he started to pull out some of the stuff of like, we're being attacked, we're being killed, 15 officers or whatever the numbers are have been murdered in the last few days and all these kind of different things. And once again, it's just like, how can you not see at this point that that is the exact same argument that they are making, that black people are making? That is the exact same argument that they have been making for hundreds of years, right? And I guess they can't see it, or they choose not to see it for the same reasons that I did, is because they're not looking.
Yeah.
So then what would be the counter argument to get them to look? I'm very curious, babe. I don't think you and I are going to figure this out right now, but I like the idea that I'm going to come up with some counter arguments to have with people and officers. I need to find an officer. I actually have one in mind.
I feel like there's a few we know.
If only I knew a police officer that I could talk to. No, but I need to sit down with my good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
You know that one guy.
I don't know. Yeah.
The one
You have
that,
a few.
yeah, I do have a few. But he'd be willing to have some really open, honest conversations
Okay,
with
then
me.
now open, honest conversations. Okay, now that narrows it down. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same argument.
What do you mean?
It's perspective, right? I don't know. I'm willing to be wrong.
When you say it's not the same argument.
I don't think that, I said, we have family. We come from those backgrounds. I want every single officer we know to be safe. I don't just want it. I say that like it's a passing thought, like, oh, here's what I have to say. I want the officers to be safe. No. In my bones, I want them to be safe. It's terrifying. I don't want people that we love to be killed. However, it's not the same argument. I know. You're not
what do you
gonna
mean
like
it's
this.
not the same argument?
Well, you're talking about...
Oh, I get what you're saying. How I'm comparing the argument that black people have to the argument that police officers are making right now.
You're saying it's literally the exact same argument. Oppression, lumping us all into the same category, but it's not, because
Go ahead. Please. I'm going to do my best to let you finish sentences this episode.
Okay.
I'm probably going to fail miserably,
well, you've been doing good so far. So,
but I'm going to do my best.
Police have been in a position of power, very much a position of power, and I'm not sure about all of it. This is an impression that I have, that it is a white-dominated profession. I don't know. That's what I've seen, at least in my area. So you've got white, which is already in a position of power. You have a badge, which is a major position of power. And then we're talking about the Black community that has, from the moment that they have been drugged and shipped and sold, and from the get-go, from the point of origin in this country to where we are now, have never been in a position of power. So I don't see it as the same argument.
You're very right. And I'm sorry that I'm glad you clarified that, because I'm not saying they have some of the same talking points.
Okay.
Right? Some of the same things are being brought up in regards to both sides. And so I'm just saying that the arguments that police officers and the people that are supporting police officers in this time period are making, they are similar talking points in some way, shape, or form that the Black Lives Matter movement is making, right? It's not the same. It's not the same topic.
Yeah.
It's not the same level of situation. I'm not comparing them and saying that they're equal.
I misunderstood.
No, I think you just did a great job of having me clarify it, because I think it was probably confusing. I don't know how it could be confusing, because I'm very straightforward and I don't ramble. But no, you're right. It's not the same. All I was trying to say was some of those things are mirroring each other.
Okay.
Some of the talking points, some of the complaints, some of the issues, some of the stuff that people are throwing out there as saying, look at this matters too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are the same arguments, just from a different side. Do you know what I mean? They're just mirroring each other. Now, the plight of a police officer is vastly different than that of a Black person, right? And you described it perfectly. They've always been in a position of power, right? White police officers, by nature, are in a position of power. They just are, like you said, for all those reasons. So I think those are sirens in the background.
Those are, but I believe it's a good thing, or
a celebratory.
I believe it's a celebratory. I believe they're bringing home a person in the military that has been overseas.
Oh, okay. It's a homecoming thing
I
for
believe
somebody
so.
that's in the military.
I believe so. Or something tragic just happened, and I'm like, oh, not all sirens are bad. No. Yeah.
So maybe that's, in my head, that feels like I have something that I can actually do, something that's tangible in this moment, is come up with some good counterpoints so that I just have them at the ready, because I'm still familiar with the stance and the side of a police officer, right?
Yeah.
Because I had that stance.
Mm-hmm.
We talked last week about how I didn't watch all the footage in the beginning, because I haven't watched I don't watch that footage anymore. I don't watch that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm very familiar with that stance and with that belief.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I just need to come up with some talking points so that when I do have the opportunity to say something, right, I will.
Yeah.
Like when you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's one little tiny, like the most minuscule fucking thing, with the exception of like texting some number so that my vote is counted. At least that I'm engaging in some way, shape, or form, right? And I'm trying to talk with people, and I'm trying to do it in such a way that, like you said, I'm not trying to fight, I'm not trying to argue, I'm definitely not trying to change anybody's minds, even though I am. That's wrong. I don't want to...
You're hoping to expand.
Yeah. Hoping to expand their vision.
Yeah.
And that's so hard, because like I can literally remember the feeling that I had as a police officer, even though you don't feel it like this, but like looking back, I realized that my scope, my field of vision was this, right? And things might have taken place on the outside of that in the world and in the country and in society, but I didn't look at those things. I only looked at the scope of what I wanted to look at and what I wanted to see. And people, I think, in general are probably a lot like that.
Yeah.
Right? And so all I'm hoping to do is be able to like shine a light over here outside of their peripheral so that maybe they just turn and look, or they take down that side and look over there for a minute and realize that it's not as clear cut. You know, it's not easy enough to say, oh, just don't break the law, and then this won't be an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know the whole story? And I apologize to the people that are listening and the people that are watching. I don't know the name of the man, but it was recently this year in the South somewhere. And I don't know all the ins and outs, and I should. But it was a black man that was killed, and all he was doing was out running. And it was like, these guys weren't police officers. They were just 2 white guys, or 3 white guys. I don't remember which. They basically just followed him and shot him.
Yeah.
Right? That's fucked up.
It's been looking through, just like really expanding my information on that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so many cases where that has happened. They're suspicious, and it's a lot of, this has happened before the cops even got there. It's the neighborhood watch. Somebody's suspicious, they're walking through. You've got dispatch that has been telling them, don't follow them, don't pursue them. Being black isn't suspicious, but they are sure it is. And then they turn it into a self-defense thing. So they say that he attacked them, which I don't know, maybe is the case, but play this out. You're alone, you're 15, you're 17, you're in a park, you're going, and you got 2 adults or 2 that start to like close in on you or coming after you. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
He was protecting himself. So there's so much of that happens all over. There's lists. There's lists of pointless, and there's 8-year-olds, and there's 17-year-olds, and there's like 38. Like it just goes, and it just keeps. It doesn't stop. There's a scroll. It just keeps going, and it's a continuous thing. It's not just police.
Yeah, it's not just police.
It's so many.
And like all the arguments that police would have in regards to what you're talking about. And what we're talking about right now is like, they talk about, you know, you're always going to have those situations where people are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Accidents are going to happen. Things are going to happen.
That wasn't an accident, though. That was an attack.
Trust me. I'm not
Sorry.
justifying it.
Sorry.
Right? I'm not saying, I'm just talking about the arguments that police officers would have. They'd also argue that, you know, criminals oftentimes behave criminally.
Yeah.
Even though they may not be necessarily in the act of committing a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't want to get into trouble, then don't be a criminal. Right? There's just so many different asininely stupid arguments that I see now as that. Just small-minded, easy ways to keep things within your peripheral vision, like to keep things within your scope and field of vision. Police officer, and I told you this the other day too, like, you know, I think another big issue that police have is, yes, there's police officers that see black people and are racist and treat them terribly. And I mean, all of that stuff happens, and there are racist police officers that are out there. But I think the vast majority of even good police officers, and we know this, not just from my personal experience, but also the people that we know now that are police officers, the people that are in our family that are police officers, they tend to see police officers and then everybody else.
Yes, that's very true.
Right? They tend to see the men and women that I work with that are my friends, that are my police officers, that are in my department, in my agency, the ones that I work day in and day out with, the ones that I rely upon, the ones that I put my life on the line for, the ones that are there to support me, the ones that are going to come back me up. Those are the people that I see, and then I see everybody else second. Yeah. So right off the bat, they're already looking at the world from that lens of like, okay, you're not a police officer, so you're everybody else, right? And then it just goes down the line from there. So that's a problem. That's a problem that is in like institutionalized within the agency.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that could massively help and change if police officers stopped viewing the world through those lenses.
Yeah. How does that happen?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that there's really big change that would have to happen in order for that to happen.
How do you think the mindset would change in law enforcement if they weren't taught that everybody is out to get them, everybody's out to kill them, that they can be killed at any second? Like, anybody can be killed at any second. But if officers went into situations, and I know their lives are at risk and it's not okay, but if they went into every single situation thinking that I'm dealing with people here, not this person's going to kill me at any second, how would their demeanor change? And in turn, when their demeanor is not ready to kill because they're afraid of being killed, how are the people that are dealing with officers going to change when they're not feeling that? Because you can feel that.
Oh, yeah.
So how would just that simple interaction change?
I think it would change massively, right? I think that would be a huge shift if you weren't taught to always be aware of your safety. Now, that sounds terrible, right? Because you have to be aware of your safety.
It's not aware of your safety. It's that everybody is trying to kill you.
Well, think of it this way. Like, imagine in this fictional world that hopefully becomes reality one day. Does my foot bother you there?
No.
Are you okay?
Yeah. I feel, yeah.
You feel what?
I don't know. Go ahead.
So in the fictional world where we're training new officers, like the first, I don't even know how much, like we'll say 2 months of fucking training is just like human behavior and interacting with people and communication skills and mental health skills and dealing with people on a one-on-one level directly from that perspective. You never talk about a gun. You never talk about arrests. You never talk about defensive tactics. You never talk about officer safety issues. You never talk about any of that stuff. You just spend 2 months dealing first and foremost with the dynamic of what the vast majority of an officer's job is, and it's interpersonal communication with people. It's conflict resolution. It's being able to talk to people and get not down on their level. That sounds terrible, but just being able to relate to them in a human way and interact with them. That's what police officers do day in. That's what good police officers do day in and day out.
So what changes? What shifts?
That's not the way it's taught.
That's what I thought you were saying. Is like for the first 2 months, that's how it was taught.
No, that's
in the fictional world. Okay.
Yeah, in the fictional world, we go through 2 months of that type of training, and it's not taught. Every traffic stop could be your last.
Yeah.
Right. Every traffic stop could be the one that you get shot and killed on.
Yeah. Right.
You want to go home each night to your family that you love. You need to treat every situation like it could be a life or death situation. Yeah. Instead of being trained and taught that from the very beginning, rather than that, have a huge portion of time, 2 or 3 months of their training, even though they need more training. There's lots of things that police officers and the culture of policing that needs to change. But yeah, humanize people for the first 2 months of your career, or for the first 2 months of your training, right? Yeah. This is what the job really is. It's talking to people, and it's being able to communicate with people, and it's being able to talk to people. The other stuff is such a few and far in between, right?
Yeah.
It just is. You hardly ever have to deal with the other side of it. It's there. Yeah. And it's a part of the job. Mm-hmm. But I don't even think that has to be a part of the job. I think there's probably a way for us to get rid of that as well.
Do you?
Yeah, because like one of the things that I was thinking about, the whole thing of like right now, whether it'll be the same, it'll probably be different when this episode comes out because the world changes, right? Every single fucking day. But right now everybody's talking about defunding the police.
Yeah.
And the pros and cons. And the argument is, oh, go ahead and defund the police, right? We'll see how much you like life then, when all the murderists and the rapists and everybody's running wild and it's anarchy and things like that, right? Go ahead and defund the police. So there are some exceptions to what I'm going to say, but the majority of the time when a murder happens, or when a rape happens, or an assault happens, or something that is physical harm to somebody else that's going to take place, guess what? Well, the police being there
aren't going to change it.
Well, no. The police aren't there.
The police aren't there. Well, yeah.
The police aren't there.
Our recent,
Think about it.
Well, I can think about a lot of things, and then I can think about what about when they are called in the heat of things. Like we just lost an officer
During a
because
domestic,
he
yeah. Here
showed
in
up for a
Utah.
domestic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, I don't know what this. I think we went off. We were talking about.
Are we all over the place?
We're very heavily focused in.
Let me go back to my list.
Police, which is it's just all. I don't know. I think the violence stops when it balances out, when everybody can stop fearing for their lives.
Yeah.
If you're constantly they're teaching you in the police force, all of that somebody's trying to kill you constantly, and then you are raised believing that, not believing, but because that's what it's been, that people are, the white people are going to come and kill you. They're never going to believe you. You're always going to, like, how are you going to behave? Somebody's out to, I know how, if you just even like separate from this in an abusive relationship where somebody never believes you, and it doesn't matter what you say, they always create their own story, and you get beat just on their thing, and your life is literally in their hands constantly. Like, you're not thinking rationally. You're not thinking rationally. Your interactions, you're scared constantly. You look guilty when you're not. Maybe you might do some crazy shit. Who knows? Like, oh gosh. It just needs to stop. It just needs to stop. There's people out there that are passing down hate. Like, there's ignorance and not seeing it, and that is not okay. And that needs to change. People need to open their eyes. And I hate that this is happening in the world, but the fact that the world is opening their eyes and that there is protests going on around the world right now, that's huge. I hate that it took this, and I hate that it didn't just take this, situation. They're like, here, this one incident, and now it's changed. Like, no, this just is a moment where people were like, that's enough. That's enough. That was a breaking point. So people opening their eyes is huge. It's huge. But there needs to be that shift in people that are very much have their eyes open and very much are aware and focused in on their hate and are teaching that with their kids and are spreading that. Like, how I know that those numbers are not as big. I know that it just is that big because of the people that aren't looking and the people that it can't see. And I feel like if more people can open their eyes and see, then it makes those people that are full of hate and that are spreading the hate, that are teaching their children to be afraid of somebody because of the color of their skin. And I am very much using that in reference to white people that are teaching their children that if they are not white, they are out to get you, which is bullshit. Like that, their numbers are going to start to go down because they're not going to be safe to hate. And that can shift to where right now, when you're safe to hate, you get that mob mentality, you're rallying in numbers. Let's make it so you're not safe to hate. Like, more people can open their eyes and learn and step in and get in between that situation. I'm sorry I'm talking with my hands so much.
You're okay.
I'm rambling now too.
Well, I would love, if anybody's listening, if anybody's still listening to this episode, and you happen to be a police officer, and you happen to know me and or us, and you want to come on the podcast and have an open, honest discourse type conversation, great. Please reach out. We would love to have you come on the podcast. Also, if you're a person of color and want to come on the podcast and talk about this situation and your own personal experience, that is something that we are 100% open to and willing to have you come on the show. In the meantime, you get Steph and I's perspective, right? You get you and I talking about this and hashing this out, just like we always do with everything. And I don't know what the fuck else to do, Steph, other than continue to talk to you and talk on this podcast and, bug people on Facebook at this point, right? I'm sure if I keep my eyes open, some other opportunities and some other things are going to present themselves.
Especially if you ask for it. Most definitely.
Yeah.
You're willing to see it? Okay.
I'm asking for it. Universe. Wherever you are. Wherever you are, that's funny.
Let's make it unsafe to hate.
Unsafe to hate.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not even make it. Boy.
Do I need to be PC about that?
Not at all. Not at all. Because I think
make it uncomfortable to spread hate.
let's just not even make it a thing anymore, right?
We have to make it a thing till it's not a thing.
But think about like where we're currently at in this fucking world in regards to like technology and the way that you can see and hear and view so many different ideas, thoughts, and perspectives from all around the fucking world, from all people, all races, all colors, and everything in between, is right now readily available at your hands, at your fingertips, right? That has to help in some way, shape, or form. That has to help in some way, shape, or form. The problem is, I think that we're all looking at the stuff that we want to look at, right? Maybe what could happen, this is a good idea. Maybe think of how cool this would be. This is a thought that just popped into my head.
We can get it here.
I'll call it a pop thought. What if the social media companies, what if your algorithms for your social media did not just continue to shovel things towards you that are in your wheelhouse and the things that you liked? What if they did the opposite?
Okay.
So what if the algorithm switched? Because like right now, if I go to YouTube, it's going to show me videos of shit that I've been watching already and stuff that I've already seen and things and the same stuff that I'm searching out. So right now I see a lot of guitar stuff in my YouTube feed, right? Because I'm constantly looking at YouTube stuff or guitar stuff. I see a lot of Trevor Noah and related topics in regards to Trevor Noah. I see a lot of UFC. So what if that algorithm that just continued to perpetuate the same stuff that I want to watch, what if it did the opposite? What if it sent me the opposite of what I'm watching? Right?
So ballerinas instead of UFC? What are you going on here, Craig?
Well, think about like instead of it just continuing to send me more clips of Trevor Noah, what if it sent me clips of Fox News? So what if that's what my feed was populated as? So I started to see the other side and what they're talking about. Now, hear me out.
I'm trying. I know you got a good point, but I'm like,
because
I'm going to keep Trevor Noah in my feed.
You can keep Trevor Noah in your feed, and you can also just subscribe and go watch Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
But with all social media and the way that they work, they're propagating and sending you the same stuff over and over again so that you continue to like eat it up.
Okay. So you want to hear what Fox has to say.
It's not just that I want to hear what Fox has to say. I want the people that are listening and watching Fox, I want them to hear what Trevor Noah has to say.
Oh, I definitely get that.
Right.
But I'm having a hard time swinging the other way.
So we have to.
I know.
We have to see the other side. We have to hear the other side. We have to talk to the other side. We have to start looking at the other side of the coin and the other side of the situation and trying to see it from that perspective and humanize everybody involved. Right?
I agree.
And
so make everything an educational moment. Like different points of view and opportunity to share your point of view. So interesting point of view. My point of view is this. No, I did not make that up.
Right. So then we start to just think about things in a different way.
I don't want Fox in my feed, though. I'm not willing to stretch that way.
But think about the way that those algorithms work. It's not like suddenly you only see Fox News.
Yeah.
You see other stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a thought.
It's a thought.
Maybe it's a simple thing that I'm sure it's probably not simple, but it probably is for them.
Yeah.
Is for them to just start switching those algorithms up so that you see the other side of the coin of whatever you're looking at rather than seeing the same thing. Because you get into those echo chambers where everything you're seeing is reiterating over and over and over again the same shit. So it's the same stuff with all these police officers where guaranteed their social media feed, their YouTube fucking channels, everything that they're fucking watching is talking about how much police are being persecuted and how Blue Lives Matter and how important they are and all these different things. That's all they're seeing across all their social media platforms. The reason I know that is because that's what mine used to look like.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I do.
So rather than having all of that just continuing perpetually, in all the ads that are coming up and stuff that you're not even paying attention to, what if we just flipped it?
Yeah.
And you got the other side.
Yeah.
Right? That's one way that they could use their
doses,
their platform.
Yeah.
They could use their ability, they could use their stuff and flip it and help. Because that's part of the problem is we're not listening to the other side. We're not hearing what
No.
they have to say because we're stuck in the place that we're looking, and we're not willing to look outside of that place.
I guess I'm pretty stubborn here, and I need to not be. I need to hear what you're saying. The point of view that I come from is like the majority of things that we've heard has been Fox News, essentially, has been very much conformed to I guess I don't know how to say it. I don't know. Like, it just seems like everything is from a white point of view. And that's what the majority has been. So, like, how do we get that to quiet down a little bit and hear more?
Listen to the other side. Yeah. To the black side.
Yeah, it's like that. But then that's like saying, this voice has been the loudest. And so I understand that that equal needs to come through the other side, but this voice has been the loudest. I think this voice just needs to be quiet for a moment.
Yeah.
And just take it in. So I'm being stubborn in that, and like, no, I don't want to give Fox News. I don't want to give like closed-minded more of a platform when that's all they've had is a platform. I want them to just like, shh, let's actually learn. Let's learn. Let's get other points of view in.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No, we're like we're
not contentious.
But I like your point. I do like your point.
Well,
We need to see it from another point of view.
yeah.
And that's what we're doing.
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to do. Thank
Yeah.
you. We still have a long way to go.
We're doing our best. Actually, I don't think I've given it my best yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
We're trying. This was on my list.
Okay.
A few days ago, Stephanie and I got high, and it was wonderful. We absolutely fucking loved it. We had a day of nonsense and laughing and giggling
Oh
and
my gosh, that's my eye. I'm like,
struggling to, talk and move. But we had a wonderful day. And during that day, I dawned on me, I don't know where the internet comes from. Do you remember me asking you
that
this
was
question?
during that time. You're like, but where does it come from?
Yeah.
And I'm like, algorithms.
You did not give my
I feel like I
question its
did.
due.
Where does it come from?
Yeah.
Code.
You're
Algorithms.
like, computers. It comes from the computers. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. And you're like, algorithms and stuff. So that was on my list, was to talk about where the internet comes from. Turns out it doesn't fucking matter because it's a stupid fucking question that you come up with when you're fucking high.
Yeah. You were like, the internet's hiding from us, because you were trying to ask Google and it wasn't answering you. And you're like, what is happening here? It's hiding from us. It doesn't want us to know.
Yeah, it doesn't. Google right now, stop listening or just
It's the end.
do this. Well, we're getting close.
Oh.
Google, where does the internet come from? Not when did it come from, not when did it start, but where does it come from? And see what you find. Because I think the internet is specifically hiding and does not want to know. The robots don't want us to know where they're coming from. Like, in my mind, there's a building somewhere. In my mind, there's like a building somewhere with all these computers, and that's where the internet comes from. And all the plugs all over the world, everywhere, in some way, shape, or form, end up running to this building and plug into the internet at that building and then go out. I'm sure that's not what it is. I know for a fact that's probably not it, but in my mind, that's what it is.
I don't know.
And then the last thing that's on my list before...
Are we going to go there?
We're going to close out the episode, yeah. Last night...
Now...
Go ahead.
I think we need to give proper love and respect before we obliterate the persona that has been given to us.
Okay.
By this legend.
So last night.
You're not giving him the proper.
We're going to,
okay.
But we have to at least tell the people who we're talking about. Okay. So I wanted to give preface for what we were talking about.
Okay.
Last night, Stephanie and I sat down and watched the current Netflix special that is available on Garth Brooks.
Who we love.
Who we absolutely
his music.
Love. We love Garth Brooks and his music.
Huge fans.
Both of us, from long ago, back in the day, early on. Can sing them all.
Yes.
Have many, many albums. Garth was my first CD that I ever had when I first started getting CDs. So we're massive, huge fans of Garth Brooks. And this special that's on Netflix right now, and it was on it was on TV at some point. I don't know where.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because did you notice how everything was edited?
Oh, so that's just your thoughts.
No, it definitely was. It was like on CMT or something.
It's a guess.
Definitely was.
Do you know for sure?
100%.
Do you know for sure?
Ask the internet.
So it's a guess.
Anyways,
You might be right, but it's still a guess. It's your theory.
It's just a documentary on Garth. It tells about his life story, about coming up.
It's a biography.
Biography.
It's a biography.
Yeah.
It's not
on Garth.
Biography.
And it also happens to star Garth in it.
It says biography.
Right? Oh, it's his biography.
Oh, it's his biography.
It's his made-up fucking world that he's created. So watch it. It's very fun. It's been well documented if you go and listen to any Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina P. They're big fans of Garth Brooks.
Oh, God.
And they love trolling him.
I love his music.
I didn't get that.
Poor Trisha.
Until I watched this special. And he's crazy. He's totally crazy.
And the labeling is not nice.
No, he's crazy. You and I talked about it. He's got a mental health issue.
There was that point when I looked at you and said, I hope I'm still a fan of his after this. I was like, what's happening?
So if you want... Yeah.
What's happening?
If you want a good laugh, and if you
Did we laugh?
I laughed at
I
some
think we
points.
looked afraid. I think we were like,
because it just kept getting worse. Because everything is there a blessing and a curse. Everything's a blessing and a curse, and sometimes when your wife talks, it's a blessing and a curse. I'm not saying that about you. That was his example.
It's a curse right now, let me tell you.
It's hilarious. If you watch it high, we weren't high, but we should have been.
I don't know.
We recommend watching it sober.
I feel like
watching it high.
I feel like it depends. I feel like if you're kind of on the fences reference, on Garth, then you're good to watch it. If you really, really like him, your perspective might change. It might like take him down a notch or two. You might be like, oh.
Yeah. You might have a hard time listening to his music afterwards.
So you might not want to watch it. Like I warned my mom, you don't want to watch it because Garth's a little changed for me now.
Yeah.
It's a little different now. It's a little different.
It's super fun. Go watch it.
It's a little different.
It's streaming right now on Netflix, at least here in the U.S.
We only watched the first half, so
yeah.
Maybe the second half he's like, I gotcha. And then his normal, charming, fun-loving self that we have learned to love and see, that he seems like he's the most personable, connected, and interactive man. It's not the case. Really comes out. Maybe he's just been punking us this whole first episode. And the second episode is when it's like, okay.
Hold on, I'm going to do an impression of him.
No.
And then the second episode starts. And that's when things
different
get
camera
real.
shift.
And then I have to talk
Slow
about
it down.
the super.
New camera shift.
And then.
Bring it home.
Things get real.
Tear up. Tear up.
Oh, wait, no. Garth, tell us about your dad.
No.
No, I can't.
Okay, we're dicks. I'm sorry.
Go watch it. It's fun. And we're done. We got to do, I think we're going to do a fire tonight.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned. Episode 200 of the podcast is coming up, and we have some exciting things.
We do.
Hopefully.
Maybe. Hopefully. I don't know.
See.
We'll
Cross
see
our
ya.
fingers.
Okay, bye-bye.
I love you, Steph.
I love you.